Okay, alrighty. Let's talk about the Dorje Shugden controversy. Basically, it's this really big thing where China is trying to use it as a schism in order, or take advantage of the schism in order to further control Tibet. So basically, what happened was Dorje Shugden is known as like the small little wisdom protector during the 5th century of the Dalai Lama, and then he rose, or there's like a debate between his actual origins. One of them is that he was a opponent of the Dalai Lama. So basically, what happened was there was the 5th Dalai Lama, and then one of his colleagues, and his colleagues had this mass following that rivaled that of the Dalai Lama's, and they were both within the Gelugpa school. And then it was rumored that the Dalai Lama's attendants became envious and tried to murder the guy. And so they ended up killing him, and then he came back as a wrathful deity. And in order to please them, after all of his, what is it when you go like bad omens, they made him a wisdom Buddha for the Sakya tradition. In order to understand the history, there are 4 actual parts of Tibetan Buddhism. There are 4 lineages: the Sakya, the Nyingma, the Gelugpa, and then the other ones. I should probably know what those are. Oh, the Rinzin. So the Sakya tradition or the lineage took care of him for a bit, but then Dorje Shugden was named the protector, or the dharmic protector, of the Gelugpa school. And then in the 70s, there was a push from the purists of the Gelugpa school to... This is so tricky. So, Tibet was conquered in the 50s, and then low-key annihilated. But Dalai Lama escaped, and then in order to, or it has been fighting for Tibetan independence and reunification ever since his exile. But in order to do that, like on a global stage, he had to unify Tibet in a religious sense. So he became the spokesperson for Tibetan Buddhism and ultimately Tibetan reunification. But he's only the head of the Gelugpa school. There are 3 other schools, and the Dalai Lama can't exactly tell them what to do because it's just not his school. But in the process of gaining traction for reunification, he started to study some Nyingma texts, but the Gelugpa monks that were purists didn't like that and petitioned against that, citing that the Dorje Shugden was the protector of the Gelugpa school, and then only the Gelugpa texts were the true texts. So they cited that any monks or anything like that petitioned to Dorje Shugden should only be studying Gelugpa texts. And since the Dalai Lama had studied under the other guy who taught him, his junior tutor. But for the reunification, so he studied under his junior tutor, who also proselytized Dorje Shugden, and since he was learning from his guru, also did that. But then in the 70s, he realized that it was no longer useful for him because it actually inhibited his ability to understand other lineages like most other Dalai Lamas, so he stopped worshipping Dorje Shugden and then ended up calling him Dolgyal, which is the trickster king demon from the land of Dol. So after that, in the 1970s, the Yellow Book was published, which actually openly criticized the Dalai Lama and how he was against all of his gurus before, since he basically said that everyone who worshipped Dorje Shugden was worshipping the wrong thing and that all their stuff would be discredited. So that was like a really big issue. Trijang Rinpoche was his junior tutor. And they said that he was going against all of his past lineages. So he basically excommunicated from his own lineage, starting a new quote-unquote religion. But during that time in the 70s, Kelsang Gyatso was just a lowly monk in his monastery, and he also openly criticized the Dalai Lama, stating that he was a false Dalai Lama due to political implications during the Chinese invasion and before that, citing that the 13th Dalai Lama had died in an unbecoming way, and that the 14th Dalai Lama, which is currently Tenzin Gyatso, was a false Dalai Lama that was actually selected not by monastic procedures, but by political implication or drivings, advance. So Kelsang Gyatso was kicked out of the monastery, and then he went to the United Kingdom in order to form his own, some would argue, cult called the New Kadampa tradition. And throughout the 80s and 90s, they petitioned against the Dalai Lama, citing that he was a false Dalai Lama and showing up to protests after the Dalai Lama had publicly stated that he was against the worshipping of dolgyal. The New Kadampa tradition also filed against religious intolerance and what is it called? Religious persecution towards the Dalai Lama in the 90s. They filed it at Amnesty International and a complaint because of the way that practitioners of Dorje Shugden within the Tibetan Autonomous Region were being treated, and these are not false accusations, because there were rumors. No, after the monk was killed with his two attendants in the 80s, the Dalai Lama then publicly stated that he was against Dorje Shugden and that it was against his health. Ooh, I forgot about that. His health and his livelihood and against the Tibetan reunification cause. That created this massive schism between the Tibetan community, as those that were traditionally worshipping Shugden couldn't the root guru relationship is like in Buddhism, you can't, like, the whole idea is that like one guru should be more than enough for you. So if you like disband from your guru, you're basically committing a sin. Like if you can't learn from that, then you can't learn from anything. So throughout like families have since Shugden was first appeared, have worshipped Shugden when they're part of the Gelugpa school. And then for the Dalai Lama to say that they can know, or that they should know, he suggested that they don't worship Shugden because he did not find it beneficial. And he said that he would pardon them and take all of the like rumored unhealthiness that comes with disbanding from your guru under your shoulders. But that's just not good enough for most people. Like, it wouldn't be good enough for me. So
does it last the whole entire family?
Well, yeah, it's like so like Buddhism is like a lifetime like thing. So to say that you're worshiping so worshiping Shugden is basically like choosing a root deity to like protect your house. So like families have had that like just in Rome for like centuries.
Yeah.
So you can't like to say that he's like a minor wrathful spirit isn't and like most of the stuff that he says isn't really founded in anything. He said that he like meditated with Avalokiteshvari, but it's like, okay, great, you talked to this reincarnate, but you can't help other people, even though he is a reincarnate Buddha. So it's just like, but yeah, so it's just like, so basically what happened is they've been excommunicated from most of the communities that actually follow. So what's happened is he's created the schism between followers of the Dalai Lama of himself versus Shugden Pas, which are followers of Shugden, who also follow the Dalai Lama. So Shugden is like a house worshipping thing. Like it's the private worship. And then to follow the Dalai Lama is a more public way of worshiping. But basically what's happened in the Tibet Autonomous Region is that people, like shopkeepers, don't want to associate themselves with Shugden Pas, so they are being discriminatory to them. So, like, some aren't allowed, like, people won't do business with them.